Lots of fun events.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I only go to the fun events.
Good afternoon, good folks, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission General Session for this Tuesday, November 22nd of the year 2022. Before we get into the business of our meeting, I'd just like to make sure everyone's aware that if you'd like to address the City Commission during a public comment period, of which there are two, one is at the beginning of our meeting on any agenda item, and there's another public comment period at the end of the meeting. It's just general comment that you may provide. If you wish to provide public comment for either of those periods, please complete the public comment form at the back of the room. You can see them on the walls there. And submit it to our city clerk and Mish over there. On the form, please provide your name, your home address, and the topic on which you'll be speaking. When it's your time to speak, I will acknowledge you, and you'll come to the podium. Provide your name and give your remarks. Note, I will not share your address publicly, nor will I ask you to announce your address before public comment. Throughout our commission meeting, let's maintain decorum and remain respectful of one another. Visitors to our meeting should refrain from making remarks from the audience, and instead are welcome to sign up to give public comment at the podium when called upon. Now, before we get into the business of our meeting, we're going to start with prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And so, if you wish to join us in either prayer or Pledge of Allegiance, please stand if you're so capable of doing so, and remove any caps. And we're going to be led in prayer by the Reverend Tolbert of New Hope Baptist Church. Welcome, Reverend Tolbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, commissioners. The Bible teaches us that in everything we ought to give thanks, for this is the will of God concerning you. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for everything, for you are the giver, the bestower, the keeper of every good and perfect gift. It comes from above, and we thank you and acknowledge you in all of our ways as you continue to direct our every path. Thank you, dear God, that we live in a land of freedom and opportunity, where we are governed, oh God, in this democratic society. We thank you for the opportunity to choose. Thank you for our wonderful city that you have given us, dear Father, and we pray that as stewards we will handle that which you have given us with justice, with peace, with kindness and love one toward another. We pray for our commissioners tonight, our mayor and our city officials. We pray, God, that you would give them guiding grace and give them peace, knowledge, and holy understanding as they need to guide us in the way that you would have us to go. God of justice and mercy, we thank you for the gift of life, and we thank you for the opportunity to serve people, the people of our city. I pray that you guide us always, satisfy the needs that need to be met during this meeting. Strengthen us, dear Father, as we make the tough decisions. I pray that we will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. Heavenly Father, I pray that we will be fruitful. Please guide us so that this meeting can be productive, and let us be decisive and effective. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us, Father, to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us, Father, that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be good leaders of your people. Help us to see humanity and the dignity of those who disagree with us, and treat all people, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Heavenly God, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build community worth humanity and the humanness in each and every person. We thank you, and we ask this in your sons, as your sons and your daughters, confident in your goodness and your love. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again, Reverend Tolbert.
God bless. Thank you.
All right, may we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Hood, absent. Commissioner Ramsey,
Here.
Vice Mayor German, absent. Commissioner Gorman,
Here.
Commissioner Emery, absent. Commissioner St. Clair,
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Thank you. We have quorum. Barely. Before we get to public comment on agenda items and the rest of our business, we are going to have some honors and awards for our wonderful employees. So, we have to do this. Excuse me. How many employees do we have altogether? 2130 something. So we have a number of employees who are hitting some marquee moments in their tenure, ranging from 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, and 45 years. And we're here to congratulate and thank each of them with deepest gratitude for their distinguished service, loyalty, and dedication to the citizens and the staff and the community of the city of Muskegon. So I see. What do you have? I don't think you have. Oh, you do. Oh, I thought you took her out. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. I want to make sure they're all there. All right. So I'm going to list off, there's a number of them are here going to be accepting certificates, but I want to list off every member who is hitting that marquee moment. And so first of all is Joel Brookins with 5 years in engineering. He's not here today, but we do have Stephen Clark, our officer Stephen Clark, with 5 years of dedicated service. And if you could stand when you receive your certificate, if you don't mind standing at the front, then we're going to bring the commissioners up at the end as well. And so then we also have I'm going in the wrong order. Jacqueline Ernie in Public Services Building. She couldn't join us, but she just hit 5 years. Congratulations, Jackie. And we also have Jacob Evans, Detective Jacob Evans, 5 years. Congratulations and thank you. We have Lance Ferrier with our Highway Department, 5 years. Thank you, Lance. Officer Haley Flaska with our Police Department, 5 years. Thank you, Haley. And we have Tony Fountain. He is in the room. Officer Fountain. 5 years. Thank you so much. Let's make that many, many more years. Yeah. Next up, we have Al Hairston Jr. with 5 years. Dedicated service to our city. And many more years to come, I hope. Congratulations. And thank you. And then we have Andrew McKee, another police officer who couldn't join us today. But we do have our Deputy City Manager, Leanne Mikesell, who has been serving as our interim city manager for the past 6 months now. So we appreciate her 6 months of extra service, as well as concluding her 5 years of service overall to our city of Muskegon. And we have Jamie Pesh in our planning department with 5 years. And many more to come. Thank you. And finally, rounding out our 5-year contingency, we have Sarah Wilson with our Treasury Department, our treasurer. A lot of excellent folks showed up here 5 years ago. All right, and we have Sergeant Felinski with 10 years. Couldn't join us today, but I want to acknowledge and extend appreciation for his 10 years of service. And we have, with 15 years, Lieutenant Casey Bringendahl. Couldn't join us, but appreciate their service. And Stephen Fisher with Planning Department, 15 years. Next up, Mike Franzik from the Planning Department. 15 years. Can you believe it? Time flies. And Trevor Gerlach, Lieutenant Gerlach, could not join us today, but he is celebrating 15 years. And Robert Holstrom from Water and Sewer is celebrating 15 years. Chad Hornis from our Highway Department is celebrating 15 years. And we have our city clerk over there, Ann Mish, celebrating 15 years. And Dwana Thompson over there. Well, pull this all up. 15 years. Detective Robert Woods is also celebrating 15 years. I'm moving on to 20 years. It's 2 more certificates, but 7 more people to be acknowledged. So we have Jason Bowes in our IT department, Information Technology, celebrating 20 years, along with Sergeant Douglas Conrad in our police department, Maria Deephouse with our Parks department. It says BREC, Parks and Recreation. Oh, police records. See, I asked earlier about that. I was like, is that Parks and Recreation? Maria Deephouse with police records. And Joshua DeHogue with our police department, Officer Joshua DeHogue. And then we have Sergeant Scott Hepworth with 20 years of dedicated service. And we have Daniel McCollum with the Highway Department. Couldn't join us tonight, but he has 20 years in, as well as Captain Andrew Rush with 20 years in, and Stephen Sherrod with our water. Stefan Sherrod with water and sewer. See, this is why we should have had you name off some of these. Predates my time. So Stefan Sherrod with 20 years. And then moving on to 25 years, we have Howard. Well, I'm jumping ahead. Let me go by alphabetical order here. Kenneth Grant, our Director of Finance and Administration here. He's celebrating 25 years, a quarter century of service to our city. Grateful for Mr. Grant, Director Grant. And we have Michael Hannon with our Water and Sewer Department, David Harvey with Highway Department, Joseph J.J. Huffman with our Water and Sewer, and Dan Love with Water and Sewer. All of them are celebrating a quarter century of service to our city and community. And rounding out 25 years, we have Howard Usher with 25 years of dedicated service. I'm out of certificates, but I'm not out of acknowledgments. We do have one more person. Regrettably, he couldn't be here, but that is Bob Hartman with Water and Sewer. He is celebrating 45 years with the city of Muskegon, nearly a half century. That is phenomenal. And I want to acknowledge, and I was remiss for not doing this at the beginning of it, because she has the shortest tenure of anyone here in the city of Muskegon, but I want to acknowledge Deborah Sweet Santiago, who is our brand new, and our acting city manager, Leanne Mikesell, has your name tag to welcome you.
Oh.
Deborah is our new community engagement manager. This is a new position for the city, and we look forward to having Deborah on board and improving and increasing communication internally and externally. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Excited to have you aboard and helping to bolster our community engagement and our communications. And hopefully we'll see several iterations of this over time, 5 years and 10 years and 15 years and 20. You're going to retire here, right? We're going to do a photo of everyone together. You want me to get in there too? Yeah.
A little more. I can see it. All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
And before you go anywhere, folks, we do want the City Commission, if you all could come up. And you follow Commissioner Gorman's lead. stand wherever. You can stand wherever. We can do another photo. But scooch in. Scooch in. Scooch in.
Go sideways. Go sideways. Sideways.
And commissioners, if you'd like to individually celebrate and acknowledge our wonderful employees. Well, thank you again, our wonderful employees, and thank you to all 230 some employees that we have. Maybe we're surpassing 240 now. I'm not sure the exact number this date, especially when we added just one. And we're hiring more firefighters and police officers as well. But thank you to every single one of our employees who serve this city day to day and make the services possible that we provide to our city, and the keeping our roads clean, and our parks, and keeping us safe and secure, and just running the city day to day, and enhancing and improving our community. So thank you to every single one of our employees for all that they do. All right, we have some requests to speak for. Looks like 2 requests to speak on agenda items. First up, we have Jamie Cross joining us from the Nelson neighborhood. Welcome. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks, and please address the chair with your comments.
Good evening. I've kind of reviewed the contract for the DNR conversion assistance, and I think the contractors look very qualified, their team. I'm very pleased to see that one of them is some experience with community engagement, and I thought that the contract was very well laid out for what the city had wanted to have in that contract. I have some questions about specific properties in the contract. So there are 7 properties that are part of the conversion. 4 properties will go through 6 of the steps set out by the state for the conversion. Of one of those 4 properties, will go through all 6 steps. So one of them in particular, I am interested in, and that is Hartshorn Marina. So Hartshorn Marina, I'm really curious to know which property is being privatized at Hartshorn Marina that needs mitigation. So I know I've asked at public hearings, public meetings, and it's not clear to me what is being privatized. And I think it's important for the community to know that if there is a part, that it should be shared. The other thing is Fisherman's Landing. I just want to mention also with Fisherman's Landing is that this is another property that is very important to the Jackson Hill neighborhood. And at this point, nobody's gone to Jackson Hill to get their input on what they want with the property. So I feel like we're missing a step here. We're talking about conversion and land swaps before actually asking the community what's going on. I was pleased to see there's a couple stakeholder meetings proposed in the contract. I kind of feel like there should be some more, because stakeholder meetings, if they're done correctly, take time. They take people if we're going to do them properly. So one of, as I was looking at it, I'm thinking about good community stakeholder meetings require a planning committee. So people from the community that come together to plan for those stakeholder meetings. That's going to take time. And with the holidays upon us, with the timeline on this, we want everything done by April 1st. I think it's pretty quick, especially with the holidays here. You're going to do a community engagement. So really important to think about the timeline, the work that goes into it. And I also want to raise my hand today to be part of that stakeholder planning committee. Being that I'm with the Nelson Neighborhood Shoreline Access Committee, I've done 19 shoreline walks, I've researched the developments, I'm aware of the public access, and it's important to get communities' input here. And I feel like, as you know from my many comments, that is one of the big things that is lacked, is hearing what the community wants. There's a lot of discussion going on between developers and city, and it's time to have community involved. I will also mention my concern is when those stakeholder meetings are. I'd like to see that detailed out a little bit. There's the first 3 steps are lumped into one part of the contract, and the last 3 steps are lumped into the other. I think it's going to be really important to have it in the first 3 steps before you're even going to the state, or as you're going to the state, when you define what those things are. So I appreciate your time. I look forward to seeing what happens with this, and the ability for the public to actually be engaged. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Cross. I know a lot of the questions that you raised tonight, you also communicated by email. I forwarded that to our DPW director and deputy director, and then relayed our deputy director, Vander Hyde's answers to your questions to you earlier today. So I don't know if you had an opportunity to see that email, but just know that.
But it would be nice to hear some of that.
No, I imagine we'll be pulling it from the consent agenda and discussing some of those very same items as well. But I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that an email was responded with the answers that you're looking for. All right, next up we have John Allen, also joining us from the Nelson neighborhood. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks. Welcome.
Good evening. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you have a great Thanksgiving on Thursday. I appreciate your time and consideration on all the matters. Just a few points on the MDNR conversion, and specifically relating to Hartshorn Marina. The progression of time and the inevitable change within it is something I believe we all understand, and change itself is not inherently a bad thing. We're really lucky to be living in this time in Muskegon's history where the downtown is flourishing, our lake has been deemed rehabilitated. You know, we've undone a lot of the poor choices from before, or just what was necessary for the development of this city. I'm a firm believer in positive change and investment, but above all, the preservation of the public equity and accessibility of our shoreline properties that makes this community so unique. I do believe that the proposal to enter into a contract with Ramboll and move forward with a plan to convey or change grant-encumbered city properties is not only detrimental for our city and our future and us as taxpayers, but contrary to the previously stated assurances regarding Hartshorn's basins, launch ramps, and subsequent public property around it. I've been lucky to be a boater at Hartshorn for going on 8 years, but like many here, I enjoyed countless times with family and friends on boats in Muskegon for many years prior to owning a boat myself. Years before any of that, though, the Hartshorn Roller Shade Company property was gifted to the city of Muskegon for, on the plaque, as it quotes, the boating public and their better enjoyment of Michigan's water wonderland. For many years, and to this day, throughout many challenges, changing water levels, and a lot of outside attempts at investment and purchasing, Muskegon has always maintained having one of the most beautiful municipal marinas anywhere on the Great Lakes. It's not only a place to keep our boats and easily access the lake aboard them, but a place where countless memories and friendships have been made simply sitting around the tables and pavilions all over the Hartshorn property. This property is a priceless part of our city charter, and I believe it should be protected and preserved for all future generations to enjoy. I don't believe that there is any, quote, encumbering nature to the city having to maintain all facets of fun and sport through these properties on our shoreline. The driving force of this conveyance comes from private investment close in proximity. The private investment that purchased neighboring property of the marina in its original agreement placed a right of first refusal to purchase the marina if it were ever to be sold. This management agreement is also the reason the TDOT grant money from the MDNR was refused. I believe the proposal with Ramboll, and more importantly, the job they will be contracted to help navigate, will rob our city of one of the most important and valuable assets next to Pier Marquette on the charter. I understand the wording and scope of this is currently limited to the small boat basin, but unfortunately it will open the door for the rest of Hartshorn and beyond. Please consider taking more time on this matter and possibly consult with us as the Hartshorn Boat Owners Association, and to echo previously, the general public at large. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. All right, there's only 2 forms that I've received for comment on agenda items. Is there anyone else remaining in the audience that wishes to speak on an agenda item? All right. Moving on to our consent agenda. Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. Are there any items that you wish to have removed for separate consideration and vote? I imagine there's at least one.
Item F.
Item F, MD&R conversion assistance. Are there any other items, commissioners, that you wish to have removed? No? All right. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented, except for item F, the MDNR conversion assistance.
Support.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Gorman, to adopt the consent agenda as presented, minus item F. Roll call, please.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item F, MD&R conversion assistance. Commissioner St. Clair.
I move to authorize staff to enter into a personal services agreement with Ramboll for assistance in resolving the conversion of several grant encumbered recreation properties throughout the city. Support.
All right. Before we move on to that, though, I do have a question. I just want to get clarification. Deputy Director Vanderhyde, is there anything, I just wanted to confirm, because in your response to the email from Ms. Cross, I just wanted to make sure that the language that we have in here reflects your intention in terms of the preferred recommendation for the contract, where we're just doing awarding steps 1 through 3.
That is correct.
Okay. I want to make sure we're on the same page there, that no changes need to occur. All right. Then we have a motion by Commissioner St. Clair, and it was supported by Commissioner Gorman. Was that? To authorize staff to enter into a professional service agreement with Ramboll for assistance in resolving the conversion of several grant encumbered recreational properties throughout the city. All right. Deputy Director Vanderhyde, if you could report out
Absolutely.
on this item, please.
And just to add on to that point of order, Mayor, my apologies, but the amount requested on the cover sheet, the $58,501, is the portion only for steps 1 through 3 of that proposal from Ramboll. So my apologies that number did not make it into the recommended motion, but that is what we're requesting at this time. So to step back, you'll recall that we came before you earlier this year with a request to go out for proposals to seek professional services. We anticipate that 2 in particular properties will be in what's known as a conversion with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Those 2 properties are Adelaide Point and the Hartshorn Village property. They impact, Adelaide Point currently impacts the Lakeshore Trail and only the Lakeshore Trail property, I believe. Nope, that's not true. The Lakeshore Trail property and the Hartshorn Marina property, as does Hartshorn Village. The other properties included in the RFP and in Ramboll's proposal are included there for 2 reasons. There's 2 properties, the Fisherman's Landing property and the 3rd Street Wharf, that are included as potential properties simply because the conversion process is long and complicated, and we felt that it would be prudent to include other properties that might be in conversion sometime in the future in this process so that we could consult with the DNR on what they've termed the recreational value of those properties, which I'll talk about in just a second. Other properties that were included, including the CSX rail line property purchase that is separately on the consent agenda tonight, were properties that and a couple others, were properties that staff felt could be potentially good candidates for what's known as mitigation. So as we work through the conversion process, other properties may need to be dedicated or encumbered through this conversion process in order to offset any impacts on the Lakeshore Trail, Hartshorn Marina, or other properties in the future. And I'll get a little bit more into exactly what that process looks like. So as we go through the conversion process with the DNR, we essentially say these are properties that may have impacts from private development or other efforts that the city is entering into. These properties, and in particular the Lakeshore Trail and the Hartshorn Marina, were in part developed using grants administered through the MDNR. Those grants include provisions that require us to maintain those properties, in many cases in perpetuity, or at least for a long time. So when changes are considered to those properties, the DNR has a process that's known as conversion that allows us to essentially negotiate with them to say what do those changes look like, and how do we create other recreational properties in the city that have an equivalent or greater value. So as we work through the conversion process with the DNR, the steps that Ms. Cross was referring to and that we've referred to, the MDNR has a 6-step process that they've outlined that was included with the RFP document, and Ramboll's proposal is based on those steps. Steps 1 through 3 are the preliminary portion of the process, where we as the city identify properties that we believe might be in conversion or that we believe might be good mitigation properties, as I mentioned. We develop surveys of those properties, maps, descriptions, and we give preliminary values to the recreation value. So we say things like Hartshorn Marina, for example, has a certain number of slips associated with it, etc. We then submit that information to the DNR at the end of step 3, and we enter into a conversation with them about how do we mitigate for these potential impacts. They give us guidance on what they feel is a good mitigation property or set of mitigation property in order to make up for or in order to balance the changes that might occur to the grant encumbered recreation properties that we're investigating. Steps 4 through 6, then, after that conversation has happened and the city and the DNR agree what properties are good to be included in the conversion process, either because they're in conversion or about to be under conversion, or because they're good mitigation properties and might end up being encumbered by the conversion process, we go into a much more in-depth analysis and look at those properties. So that will almost certainly include the Adelaide Point and Hartshorn Village and Hartshorn Marina and Lakeshore Trail properties. It could include other properties that we have identified in steps 1 through 3 as mitigation properties. We'll go through a much more detailed appraisal of each of those properties, determining what the specific and very defined impacts are to those properties. We will go through environmental testing and due diligence on those properties to make sure that any environmental concerns, either on the converted or mitigation properties, are included in all of these documents. And at that time, there are very specific public notice and public meeting requirements that are set forth in that DNR process. Those are the meetings that Ramboll has included in their proposal. So those meetings are not necessarily proposed at this time tonight, although certainly we welcome any suggestions you might have. And at the end of that process, then we receive essentially confirmation or final approval from the DNR that yes, in fact, all of these properties, after we've gone through these in detail reviews, are as good as what we thought they were for mitigation or conversion. That's a background on the process. Again, tonight we're proposing award to Ramboll. They're a consultant that has worked for the Wimserdick group within the city for the work at the Emico Fish and Wildlife work that was done there, including revisions to the Lakeshore Trail from the high water damage. And they have experience with this process, and we're excited to have them on board. I would welcome any questions you have on that or the conversion process in general.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Commissioner St. Clair.
I am wondering if you can talk specifics as to what part of Hartshorn Marina we are looking at with this.
So The agreements that we have in place with Adelaide Point include the ability for Adelaide Point to perform improvements on what's known as the small boat basin, which is the small part that sticks out into the lake right next to Adelaide Point's two thumbs or fingers, whatever you'd like to call them. Those changes to that area will convert, so to speak, that area which is currently used as what's known as the small boat basin. We used to allow small boats to park in there with year-long marina leases. During the high water times, much of that infrastructure was damaged and has not yet been replaced. But those changes would reduce the number of permanent slips in that area and increase the number of what are known as shopper docks or temporary parking spaces in that area, as well as updates to other recreational things along that peninsula. In a similar fashion, the Hartshorn Village property has in its development agreement some statements about first rights of refusal, as we heard earlier, on marina slips. I am not as familiar with that development agreement. It was signed and put in place before I came to the city, but my understanding is that the owner has a certain first number of slips that they have the first right of refusal to within Hartshorn Marina. It is not all of them, it is a certain subset of them. And again, we're not sure whether that's considered a conversion. This process is designed, in particular steps 1 through 3, for us to sit down with the DNR and say, here is Hartshorn Marina, here is the development agreement, here is what this will look like, we believe, when it's complete. Do you believe this is a conversion? And can you help us come up with an equivalent recreational value either on the same property or somewhere else in the city to mitigate any impacts that they see there?
Thank you.
So insofar as Hartshorn Marina is concerned, just so that everyone clearly understands, no portion of Hartshorn Marina is being contemplated for sale, transfer, or conveyance to any private or any other entity, regardless, private or public. It is fully intentioned to remain in control of the city of Muskegon, but that some aspects of its use may change, and out of a desire for extra vigilance and due diligence, we're including that in our consulting work that we're hiring Ramble to pursue. It's just to understand what the implications may be if it triggers a conversion that we need to mitigate. But that property will remain in with recreational activity. Just the form of the activity may change somewhat. Okay.
Absolutely.
Commissioner St. Clair, did you have a follow-up? Commissioner Ramsey or Commissioner Gorman, do you have any questions for Deputy Director Vanderhyde?
Yeah, not so much a question. I want to clarify for those that have reached out as well. In general, I guess, is it fair to say and for everyone to understand that this conversion assistance will help us just make decisions to convert or not convert, and knowledge is power. And so this is a great first step, no matter which way it goes. But nothing is being decided by us voting in favor of this tonight. And to Jamie's point, I hope we can engage our community and make sure people are aware of stakeholder meetings, because we want to know their input and hear what our community wants. So can you just confirm that, I guess?
Yes, absolutely. That is confirmed. Essentially, again, we are just getting our arms around the properties that are or might be in conversion, sitting down with the DNR, and this is specifically with steps 1 through 3, and saying, here's what we think is true. Can you confirm it for us? And can you help us make decisions about where we go from here? And we would be back in front of this group and certainly the public in order to talk about what the outcomes of those discussions look like.
So there could be a situation too where the DNR says no, I don't know, whatever value we thought a property might be, they might disagree with that, and that might also, I don't know, prohibit something from moving forward. An idea, I should say, that is a scenario.
Well, for example, they may say, we think that the slips in Hartshorn Marina regardless of who has the right to lease them, they are still a boat slip and they are still open to residents of the city of Muskegon, and therefore that is not a conversion. You know, again, that's part of what this process is designed to do, is help us all understand what is in conversion and how do we mitigate our way out of it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Corman. That's a great way to frame that. It's fact finding, what we're essentially doing. And then once we have the facts, deciding how to move forward. And if a conversion is necessary, then we'll complete the steps that's required for that process to do so. But it will be done in concert with our staff and the community. There's nothing swiftly being done or secretively being done. And insofar as Fisherman's Landing is concerned, we were intentionally in referencing that to be as transparent as possible, that this is still something that's being explored. There's no imminent agreement of any kind, but it's still being explored. We have a third party that's very much interested in it, and this just helps us understand what are the implications if we decide that that's the route we want to go. But that will include considerable community engagement as part of that process as well. And the number of community engagement meetings that's outlined in this contract, that's just where Ramble, our consultant, is required to be there. That doesn't mean that we're limited to those number of community engagement events or to have in our community. We can still go above and beyond that ourselves as a city and as a staff. Unfortunately, with our new hire, our community engagement manager, Deborah Sweet Santiago, she'll be able to help us in getting the word out about that and facilitating those type of engagement initiatives as well. Commissioner Ramsey, did you have any questions or comments at this time on this item?
I don't have any questions. I do just also want to add to the comment and the strength of the conversation we're having right now surrounding Fisherman's Landing and the what people will call transparency, what I will call accountability to the process that's going on there. I've sat down with Vice Mayor German a couple times and asked him how we can engage the residents of that neighborhood to make sure that whatever goes in there is of their design. There are 4 very, very long parking lanes of nothing but hot black asphalt there that if we could change into a green space that is more usable by the neighbors in those areas, why not find out what that is for them before we agree to go into anything. And if he was here tonight, he would agree with that. So anything that we can do, neighbors, please do not hesitate to reach out to your commissioner, to one of the at-large commissioners, to the mayor, or to the city offices, and add your voice or talk about being a part of the recruitment process for that engagement. I know that many people have a lot of skin in this game when it comes to Fisherman's Landing, and I respect that. So whatever we can do to make sure that we're serving the neighbors who live in that neighborhood moving forward would be great.
Indeed, thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. And separate from the conversion process and contemplation of that itself, and any engagement that's required for that, insofar as our parks generally are concerned, we anticipate getting a comprehensive rounds of engagement going next year as we're reviving our Parks and Recreation Department, bringing on a new director, and updating a comprehensive, thorough update to our master plan for our Parks and Recreation, and that's going to have considerable on-the-ground engagement with our residents as well. So there'd be another opportunity to hear from our residents in terms of how existing parks serve them and how it could be improved, and what enhancements they'd welcome, and potential new park spaces. So we'll have a lot of opportunities for getting that feedback and better understanding how our parks serve our city and its citizens. So any other questions or remarks on this item from commissioners? All right. Manager Mikesell, do you have anything to add?
I don't.
No? Okay. I'm just going to read. So we had a member of the audience who raised some questions and wanted to get answers. I know you've answered some of them, but with regard to her questions, I'm just going to read the answers that were shared with her via this email, so that's available to everybody, those answers. So I'm just reading the answers, not necessarily all of the questions, but just reading the answers, because it's quite a bit of copy to read. But I just want to make sure everyone has the same answers and information. So none of the Hartshorn Marina property is being privatized in the sense that property is being sold or leased. The marina property is encumbered by a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant, which requires that any reduction in recreation offerings be offset by other recreational types of facilities. The properties do provide a certain type and extent of recreation at this time, and as part of the developments in the area, those recreational types and extents will change. For example, the development agreement for the Hartshorn Village property grants the first right of refusal for some slips at Hartshorn Marina to the owner of the Hartshorn Village property, which could be interpreted as a reduction in recreational value to the public. Similarly, the small boat basin will be converted from leasable boat slip space to shopper docks and other amenities. This will not reduce the recreation value per se, but will change the types offered. It will not reduce recreation per se, but will change the types offered. Due to grant encumbrances, we felt it would be worthwhile confirming the DNR is on board with these changes, and the conversion process is the way to do that. Also answered, the conversion process is long and complicated, so the intent is to have the consultant examine other properties that could be used as mitigation properties for current conversion or may be in conversion themselves in the future. Including them in the consultant's scope of work does not put them in conversion, nor does it mean the city must follow through on an intent to change anything about them. The conversion process outlined by the MDNR includes public meetings and a public notice period, so properties like Fisherman's Landing would be brought to the public before being a part of any active conversion mitigation. Now, although the Commission is, of course, welcome to act in any way they see fit, the recommended motion only awards steps 1 through 3 of the MDNR's defined process for all the properties. The first 3 steps include defining the extent of the conversion, obtaining information about the properties in conversion or noted for mitigation, such as a survey, and creating maps of the properties and a preliminary evaluation of each property's, quote, recreational usefulness. All the properties are then discussed with MDNR to determine what is eligible, what is valuable as a mitigation property, and what types of recreation would be gained or lost. Properties that are determined to be part of the conversion and properties that both the DNR and the city have identified as good candidates for mitigation are then planned to be included in a second phase of the work, steps 4 through 6, which is far more in-depth and expensive and includes public meetings for both converted and mitigation properties. This way, the city and residents are investing significant time and money only in properties that are good candidates, conversion, and mitigation. Finally, the conversion process is expected to take many months and will be driven primarily by MDNR review times and discussions with MDNR and public regarding the properties that are eligible and valuable as mitigation properties. Although we cannot know, staff expects the conversion process for properties that go through all 6 steps will take up to a year and maybe longer. We anticipate the work for steps 1 through 3 may be accomplished by summer of 2023. So, those are the answers. Thank you, Deputy Vanderhyde, for providing those answers in response to a resident's email and their questions. So I appreciate that feedback, helping us to better understand and our community to understand the process. There's one other thing I wanted to add before we wrap this up. Crossed my mind as I was reading that, and now it slipped my mind. It's with regard to grant applications, because there's some word that we're going to be we are not going to have access to any grant funds because of the conversion process. And I just want to get clarity on that. That one, the Sparks grants, which are federal dollars, ARPA dollars passed through the state that are being made available to municipalities across the state of Michigan. And there's 3 rounds of funding this fall and the next spring and then the summer into the fall. And that this conversion process has 0 impact on our ability to apply and access those Spark grant dollars. Can you confirm that's the case?
That is correct.
All right, thank you. And then insofar as other DNR grants are concerned, it's not necessarily that we are prohibited from applying or automatically eliminated from consideration. It's that while being in an active conversion process, we just get some points deducted from the scoring on our application. But there's still a possibility that we could access those grant funds even while in a conversion process. We're just put a little bit of disadvantage because we're in an active conversion process. Is that the case as well?
That is.
Okay, thank you. So we all understand that in terms of our ability to access grant dollars for our parks. So, all right. Well, thanks so much for your time tonight and your assistance with this matter.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, then we'll go to roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery? Oh, sorry, absent. Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, we don't have any public hearings, no unfinished business, then on to new business, which is our first quarter budget reforecast. And we have Jessica Rabe, Rabe, okay, I got it right. Welcome, Jessica, our Deputy Finance Director.
Yes. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight the things that Ken really highlighted in the memo. One of the things that we want to change is the income tax. We want to increase that to $10,250,000. It's constantly growing. We had it originally at $9,300,000. Based on the Michigan Department of Treasury, it looks like we're going to get a little bit more constitutional money, so we want to increase that from $3,488,000 to $3,748,000. The paid beach parking, last year we received around $837,000. We want to increase it from our original budget to $800,000. And then we need to increase the money that we get from, or that we have to pay the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority for different claims and sewer backups and everything. Just based on some of the stuff that we are doing right now, we need to increase it from $407,000 to $750,000. The general fund we need to increase for the arena. This was actually passed last year for the compressor system, but because it wasn't finished, the auditors made us put it into this year. And so we are just basically moving it forward to this year. And then the local street fund, the DPW director is increasing that $50,000. And Old Toff Drive extension, it's gonna cost around $950,000 to complete. So for major streets, we have to increase that.
And the lion's share of that's being funded by the state.
Yep. And then, basically he just stated that the compressor system, again, it's from last year, but it's saving us on electricity, so. Those were his big highlights on what we're changing in the budget. Anybody have any questions?
All right, commissioners, any questions or comments on our reforecasted budget?
I'm excited to see how we can put some of these $837,000 from parking revenue at Pierre Marquette into our local neighborhood parks.
Excellent. Do you happen to, it's perfectly okay if you do not know the answer to this, but I'm just curious. I see for ADA project, we're having an increase in our contractual services for that. Do you know what that encompasses?
That one I do not know. That would be something I'd have to ask Ken.
I believe that we are going to do some work on Wesley Avenue. I was thinking that maybe our DPW director might be able to inform us.
I do know that we are doing work on Wesley Avenue, and it is part of the ADA project, but I don't know if that's why it increased.
Most of it was related to a carryover project. We approved participation at the Leonard on their public space improvements, and those, for the same reason the arena project had to get carried to this fiscal year, they didn't get paid until July or August, so we had to carry those forward to this year.
Okay.
We do still have money budgeted for the other projects that Leanne mentioned, but that was part of the initial, I believe, $50,000 that was proposed in the original budget.
Okay. Excellent. Well, there's nothing else. Thank you. Did we have a motion? I don't believe so. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve the first quarter fiscal year 2022 to 23 budget forecast as presented.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner St. Clair, to approve the first quarter fiscal year 2022 to 2023 budget. Any final comments or questions from our commissioners? All right then, roll call please.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes,
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. Well, nice to see some income improvements in that budget and net position improving as well. Hopefully we maintain that positive momentum in that regard. All right. Is there any other commissioners? Is there any other business, commissioners, before we go to general public comment? Commissioner St. Clair.
Thank you. I just wanted to recognize the clerk and her office and all of the city employees who pitched in to make the election happen. I know that you did an incredible amount of work. I know that you were here on Saturdays and Fridays and probably Sundays.
2 in the morning,
For
election night.
like the last month. I don't think people realize how much work goes into having an election. And now that we have, absentee ballots have increased the workload significantly. The political climate has increased the workload and the tension. So I just wanted to make sure that we are recognizing the clerk and her office. And as I said, I know a lot of city staff helped you. I know that the police department was also available and accessible. So thank you so much.
Here, here. Well said. Thank you, Commissioner St. Clair. And yes, we have a top-notch clerk's office, and so grateful for everyone at City Hall who supports the election operations. They're critical to us having a well-functioning democracy. All right, Commissioners, any other business? All right. Before we get to general comment, this will be our last general session, our last meeting that we'll have Leanne Mikesell serving as our interim acting city manager. Our incoming city manager, Jonathan Seifert, will be starting on Monday, November 28th. And so this is your last meeting up here with as acting or interim city manager, but I just want to say and thank you. Thank you for your service and stepping up to serve in that capacity for those months and taking on all that stress and those challenges and that extra work and continuing to move our city forward and serving our citizenry. So I'm just appreciative, and I think all of us are appreciative, and Commissioner Ramsey so eloquently acknowledged your efforts and work at our last meeting, but given this the final meeting that you're serving in this capacity, I just wanted to acknowledge that one more time and say thank you for the work that you have done. And I'm so excited that you're going to continue serving our city as deputy city manager and working with Jonathan Seifert as our new city manager. And I think you will be a phenomenal dynamic duo that's going to serve this city so well and our citizenry. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the words. It's been an amazing learning experience for me, and I think the best part of it was really getting to know all of you so much better, because we were working one-on-one so much more often. So I've appreciated all the support from all of you, certainly all the staff, and the community. It's really been a great experience for me, and I also am very much looking forward to Jonathan starting on Monday and working with him.
Excellent. And so, folks, y'all are welcome to come here on Monday, November 28th. I keep on saying 27th. I'm going to start your day sooner. November 28th, 9 a.m. here at City Hall Commission Chambers. We're going to have the swearing in for Jonathan as our new city manager and have some light refreshments. So the public is welcome to attend and celebrate our incoming city manager. And then we also have some celebrations going on this Saturday. Clerk Mish, would you care to... I know I put you on the spot. I didn't let you know that I'm going to call on you.
Here, I got the notes.
Oh, thank you.
You got the crib notes. If you could highlight that we've got our community holiday tree lighting this Saturday in Hackley Park. You just give us a little bit of rundown of what we're doing and.
We were so excited. So it's our annual holiday tree lighting that we're doing on Saturday at Hackley Park that our Parks Department has worked so hard to decorate, and it will be lit up at that time. So we have free hot chocolate and free cookies from 2 of our Wesleyan churches that were so gracious to be there. We have the choir coming from the Civic Theater that will be doing a couple of songs. And then, of course, the downtown is going to be lit up thanks to Terry Puffer and his organization. They have done Western Market, or Western Avenue, I'm sorry, so they're going to be going down there. We have the Lakeshore Museum is doing free ornament decorating and postcard decorating over there from 4 until 7, I believe. Also, we have a special treat. We have the man in the red suit is going to be there. He will be there to visit his live reindeer that will be on site, so anybody can go and visit the reindeer. And then Santa will be available at the Hackley Library, and we want to thank the Hackley Library who got us the reindeer and are also letting us use their area where children will be able to see Santa and tell them what they might want for the holidays. And then we also have a letter box where children can write to Santa, and those letters will be answered as long as an address is left for us. And this is all going to be emceed by our mayor.
That'll be my pleasure. And there will be free mayoral hugs, too. So
There you go.
I'm going to warm up with a hug. All right. Well, thanks so much, Clerk Mish. All right. If there's any other business from the dais, then we're going to move on to public comment. And we have one person signed up for general public comment. And that's Jay McCross, joining us again from the Nelson neighborhood. Welcome back. You have up to 3 minutes to provide remarks.
Thank you. So I just wanted to continue the conversation about public access and some of the things that are going on. So one of them is the Adelaide Point Eagle permits, which I've been seeing some things out there publicly right now. So I just wanted to step in and say a few things about that. So as we know, there was a public hearing on 10/18. Number of comments came back to the state, both in the positive and in the negative. The state did have some real concerns about the development, specifically around the marina, in terms of encroaching on the public trust, and also in terms of impacts to wildlife, the fisheries. There's somewhere in the public comments, there is a number figure for what our fisheries are here on Muskegon Lake. Annually, it's 2.6 million, and somebody told me that's probably a low ball. So I just wanted to mention that. And the comments, one of the things I wanted to mention or defined, so people might not know what the public trust doctrine is, but it's something that is for the Great Lakes, and the state of Michigan has control over that here for this state. But I'm going to read the public trust doctrine to you so you understand what it is. So the public trust doctrine protects the public's right to use the waters of the Great Lakes for purposes such as navigation, hunting, and fishing, recreation. So that's Muskegon Lake is connected, and it's part of that public trust. And so the Adelaide Point Marina actually fingers out into that trust and encloses it. And so the concern is that that marina actually privatizes the public trust. So most marinas, or all marinas on Muskegon Lake, were dug out of land, but this one is a little bit different. So I just kind of think it's important that we understand what is proposed here. I also want to mention there was something posted on the Adelaide Point's Facebook page. It's a revised proposal, 50 slips for, just so you know, the small boat basin were considered, but that hasn't, from what I can tell, been submitted to the state. So as we're thinking about these things, we're seeing them in the public, but they have till November 30th to put it to the state. I assume there's going to be some back and forth. I have some of the state's comments. I'm going to just give the copy that I have to the commission. Take them if you want. The other thing I wanted to just mention is the lawsuit that West Michigan Dock and Market has against the city for the property that was given away to Shoreline Inn. And so that suit will be heard November 29th. I will be there in the audience for that because do not think the city should have given that away. So I want to make sure the city knows that I'm there in support of making sure this doesn't happen again, and also for the judge. So thank you for your time. Just some updates, and if anybody wants it, they can have it. But it's easy to attain.
All right. Thanks so much, Ms. Cross. Appreciate you being here tonight. Is there anyone else from the public? Mr. Allen? You can come back up.
At Hartshorn, the private developer, the Adelaide Point, that's worked in next door now, I guess my question is, was that, and maybe this is for the attorney, the management agreement that was approved by council for the Hartshorn Village development, was that just automatically included when Adelaide Point purchased the property? Or did that need to be re-evaluated and approved by council before he was allowed to take over as, quote, owner or management? I'm only asking because I forget the vice, the man who spoke more after me, he was saying that they have a right of first refusal. The agreement is they have a right of first refusal for up to 22 or 24 slips within the large boat basin after the returning customers have their chance. Now that's what we went through that with the commission before. The problem is those were designated, I believe are designated for the Hartshorn Village development, correct? They aren't for, like, Adelaide Point's owner has taken over and he's taken 15 of the slips, and there are only 2 completed with 1/3 pad on the Hartshorn Village property. Now, I believe, this is a little more hearsay, but I'm sure given the delays on his marina and promises that have been made there, that those slips are going to be sublet and used for other purposes that are entirely against the rules and regulations of the marina, and even against the charter of the city, as far as I know, because you can't put a private profiting entity on public land. That's why we can't run charters out of Hartshorn. You can do it at a private marina, but out of Hartshorn you can't make money off of your boat or your slip. So I would say that, just the way that that's looking, it seems like he might be taking some, advantage of that management contract and the wording within it. And that's, again, back to the sales part of it. Like my dad's told me, you wouldn't have an attorney write into a contract like that the sales clause if there wasn't some intention down the road to try and utilize that. And I worry again about how much he's trying to take as far as our slips, and back to the conversion process of, the small boat basin was one of the most, when you have a small boat, you don't need a ton of things. It was very affordable. I knew a lot of people. Now, the water level did a lot of damage. But again, entering into that management contract with Hartshorn Village, I believe is what nullified our ability to get grant money to replace or repair the T-dock that was taken out, which again is kind of subtracting from the amount of recreational ability or accessibility within that property itself. So, again, that management contract kind of makes things a little bit more convoluted, and I guess I was just curious, above all, did that automatically convey with the sale of Hartshorn Village, or is it something that has to be reevaluated and could go to public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I had some of the same questions, concerns insofar as the first refusal and how it's being implemented, and have been talking with our staff, our manager, as well as DPW director and deputy director, and I will be speaking with our legal counsel on that as well. It's differing interpretations.
Yeah.
But insofar as the original agreement with Harbor West that pertains to Hartshorn Village, that does, and legal counsel can weigh in here, but that does carry with its successors. So if someone acquires Harbor West, they're going to carry over that agreement with Harbor West. It survives. You want to add any clarity on that?
No, that's accurate.
Okay. So
that
original agreement carries forward with the new property owner.
I figured it.
Its implementation is a
Yeah, I would say that
TBD.
the Harbor West took the 2 because they have 2 units built. Those are what they were planning on building however 50, 70 units, and 24 of them would have, their own slip. That was the point of that contract. But with only 2 of them done and a third pad poured, I don't see why you would need 15 slips for any, you're going to finish that much construction probably on that property before then. So
It's a matter of, I don't want to get back and forth here, but
Yeah.
we can talk further, but it is a matter of, expectations and the original context of that agreement,
Intention
what has
of it,
transpired
yeah.
since then, what is technically permissible, how can we change. So there's some things to be worked out, but just know that I have some of the same, very same, literally, it's uncanny, some of the very same questions, concerns that I have been discussing internally with our staff in recent days. And so remains to be seen exactly. But thank you.
Thank you again for your time.
Anyone else? No, I did not get your slip.
It's if there was one there. If there wasn't.
Oh yeah, very weird. Yes, Ann Vandermolen. Not like I didn't know your name. Ann Vandermolen joining us from Roosevelt Park. Welcome. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
When I was 15, I quit high school on the other side of the state and moved to Muskegon. After the last black eye I got from an abusive older child, I made up my mind that I was never going to go through that again. I moved to Muskegon to be with my strong aunt and my strong grandma. In my opinion, abuse is far too prevalent in society. When I did my student teaching, part of my student teaching, under the leadership of Richard Nolan, we had a student tell me that he was possibly going to go home and do something terrible to his mother. I told Richard Nolan right away, and he and a social worker got that student in a psych facility that night. That student was sweet to me, and I've always wondered what kind of trauma he went through in order to get to that point. The semester before that, at another school here in town, I had another student go through something terribly horrific. It was written up all over the Chronicle that year. We just had a 15-year-old abused to death in Norton Shores. We've got to treat children better. But getting back to my grandma, she lived at 1085 West Forest Avenue by NIMS School. And when she passed away in 2014, in the preceding year and about a few months after she passed away, I did a lot of work on her house in order to get it sold because she had done so much for me. She in my life. She was almost 102 when she passed away and spent most of her life in the NIMS neighborhood. So I just want to say some of the businesses that worked on my grandma's house, I had so many of them. Duff Plumbing, Andy's Tree Service, Baskin's, Muskegon Glass, Bishop's for the furnace, Carbon Footprint Home Improvement, Don LeBren's, the old Muskegon City Inspector. He put in a whole new electric service and many more. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Ms. Vandermolen. All right. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment at this time? No? All right. Commissioners, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Ramsey.
Before I do that, I would like to ask staff to make sure that the commission receives an appointment date and time for the hearing that was spoke about earlier against us in the marked dock. And then I would like to believe
It is Tuesday,
Yeah.
9 a.m., Judge Hoop's courtroom on the 6th floor.
And I believe the brief was mailed out to everybody.
Yes. Which has the notice.
right, and I was looking for it, but I can't. I believe you. I don't believe me.
I'll try tracking it down and forwarding it to you.
Tuesday 9
So
a.m.
you can see
hoops.
it.
And then I would like to present a motion to adjourn.
Or
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner St. Clair to adjourn. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. All right. We are adjourned. Take care, be well, and have a happy Thanksgiving.